First, they thought that I was probably a CIA agent and I was there to overthrow the government of North Korea. But actually, my identity is, missionary. But when they think about missionary, they all work for the State Department or working for CIA. So the first 3 or 4 months, they were very hostile, and it was very difficult to make any conversations. But after going back and forth, and I started to develop a relationship with the guard, and one by one, they were asking questions. And then they were watching me that I'm Christians, and they wanted to know why, how come you look happier than us? We are the guard, you are this prisoner. Who is Jesus? And they were asking this kind of question: why are you able to endure the hardship?
Hey everyone, it's Steve here at the Living Enviado podcast, and I am just curious. Have you ever wondered what it's like to serve in a North Korean prison? Yes, I said North Korea, the most oppressive state on earth with the most oppressive regime in the world. Well, today's guest served 2 years of a 15-year sentence in a North Korean prison. He's a Korean American. He was an evangelical missionary, and man, does he have a story to tell. And it's not just a story of what he endured in the North Korean prison, because we are going to get into that, but it's also a story of what God did after he was rescued from the prison by the U.S. government. So without further ado, let's get to my guest and hear his story, Kenneth Bae. Kenneth, thank you for spending your time with me today just to talk about your life over the last 15 years. And as we were talking before we hit record, I was telling you that we got to meet, I don't know, about 10 years ago, and I honestly can't remember where. I just remember it was at a conference. I remember hearing you speaking and talking about your experience, and then we ended up sitting at the same table and having lunch or dinner together. And I was just been fascinated with your story ever since. And so I'm very grateful that you're here today. And, I want to talk about your time in North Korea, but before we get into what happened in 2012, I like to set the stage. Like before that, like you had been going in and out of North Korea for some time. What were you doing, and why were you going into North Korea?
Well, I was in and out of North Korea from 2010, but before that, I was actually stationed in northeast side of China, which is right next to North Korea. So we are hosting many short-term teams in the area, and we pray over North Korea before. And then we just asked the Lord, Lord, can you open the door for us to actually go in and pray inside of North Korea? So that's what really happened in 2010. I was invited by one of the missionary working inside as a humanitarian missions, and I was invited. And while I was in there, I realized that it's possible to bring tourists into the area for first time, Western tourists. And so I told them that I can bring people, and I would like to set a contract and to be able to bring tourists. But I told them that there will be most of them probably will be Christians. It'll be okay. Then they said should be fine. So I ended up going into North Korea, starting from 2011 to 2012, over 18 different time. I brought about 300 people from 17 different nations to North Korea to pray and worship inside of North Korea and claim the land for Jesus. And that's what happened prior and then during the time in North Korea.
So I was looking at your Wikipedia page because I know you have one, and I noticed where you lived on the China. I've actually been there and got to stand at the riverbank. A friend of mine took me there, and I was standing about 20 feet from the North Korean side. So it was really that's about as close as I got. But it's interesting that you said that you were, I guess, asked that you wanted to bring people in, but they were specifically Christians to come in. And you said you went 18 times. So I'm sure after going 18 times, I remember you saying at that conference that, going in so many times, you get into a routine. It just becomes routine of walking in or going in, and you think everything's going to be everything's going to be normal. Going in so many times, and then November 2012. I think it was November 3rd, I think it was.
That's correct.
So November 3rd, 2012, you go in thinking it's a normal trip, just like the past, but something happened. What happened? And then we'll go from there.
Yeah, actually, that was my 18th trips, and I was completing about 300 people over a year and a half period of time. But this time, what happened was I accidentally brought in a computer hard drive that contained some Western media, produced some contents, like a documentary film about North Korea and so on. So that's what got me in trouble. And they discovered this hard drive, which I didn't mean to take it in, but I forgot to take it out of my suitcase and ended up bringing to North Korea. And then when they discovered hard drive, they wanted to know what's inside, and then they were scanning it, and they found some documentary film of North Korea, and they were really upset the fact that I brought something like that because this documentary film has a scene of the children begging on the street, picking up the noodle from the third floor and things like that. They're offended by it, and then they want to know what's the reason for me to bring such a hostile material into the countries. But later on, they also discovered all my mission support letters and report about North Korea and China. So it was a matter of time that they would discover that I was actually a missionary and a pastor working in and out of North Korea. So that's what got me in trouble at the time.
So they arrested you after discovering all this, but they didn't let you go. I mean, I guess take us in the next step. So what happened after that? Because that created a whole nother scenario for you, a different experience, obviously.
So
That you
National Security Bureau, they came to arrest me, and then they wanted to detain me in one of the local, I guess they're hiding, they're placed where they're hold their foreign prisoner, and the detainees, or I guess they were going in and out of that facility. I was there for about a month, being questioned in a day and night. And then they finally, came to the conclusion that I was actually there to bring in people to pray and worship. So they told me that I was trying to overthrow the government of North Korea through prayer and worship. And so they said that was my entire purpose. So they wanted to charge me to overthrow the North Korea regime. And then I was sent to Pyongyang, the capital city. And then I was actually tried at their highest court. And I got 15 years of hard labor sentence. And I was the first American since Korean War was sent to labor camp designed for foreign inmate. And so I was there for 735 days in total.
So what was life like day in and day out while you were in prison?
So daily routine, I realized that there were more than 40 different guards that were there, but I was the only prisoner there for the whole time. So I had to get up at 6 in the morning, but starting from 8 in the morning until 6 p.m. at night, 6 days a week, I had to go out and do manual labor, doing farming work, digging the ground and carrying rock and shovelings and all kind of hard labor that I have to endure for 10 hours a day. And then once I return in the evenings, they let me sit on the chair. There's a desk and chair, and I have to sit there until 10 p.m. And then they said you can go to sleep. And then when I lay down, they have the lights on, and so there was camera, everywhere. So I was being watched 24/7, and it's really hard to go to sleep with the light on, and I was so tired. So I woke up maybe in every hour or so because I had arthritis pain, and it was very, very difficult to endure the hard labor during that time. So that went on for first 3 months or so, and lost about 27 kilos, about 50 pounds in 3 months. And I was sent to a hospital for malnutrition. So that was another transition at the time. So I spent about 4 and 5 months at the hospital waiting to be rescued by U.S. government. And that's the kind of another scene that it kind of took place. But and there was actually U.S. envoy came from the White House. President Obama actually sent somebody to get me out of there, but the negotiation failed, and he had to leave without pretty much saying that is, I'm sorry, I cannot take you, and then he left. And then I ended up staying a few more months, and then I was back on to the labor camp. I was working at the labor camp for another few months, and then I was sent to the hospital and going back and forth like that for a year and a half or so.
You said you had 40 guards?
About 40 guard. Yeah.
That's a lot. That seems like a little bit overkill.
And I was only prisoner at the whole time. So there was like, yeah, literally overkill. There were about team, it's three guard in as a one group supposed to watch me for 3 hours, and it goes on for 24/7. They had to have three people watching me over. And when I was working in the field, they actually have two guard will come out. One guard will stay and watch me through the camera, and the two guard will be out in the field carrying pistols and rifle and things like that, so that make sure that I actually do my job. But
Did
after
you
a few months, I realized that I wasn't going anywhere. So they kind of loosened up a little bit, but still I was being watched all the time. Yeah.
and you said there was no interaction with other inmates anywhere.
No, there was no other inmate. Yeah.
So, what did you have any conversations with the guards, interactions with them other than them just being there to watch you?
So first they thought that I was probably a CIA agent and I was there to overthrow the government of North Korea. I was disguising myself as tour company president, but actually my identity is missionary. But when they think about missionary, they all work for the State Department or working for CIA. So I first 3 or 4 months they were very hostile, and it was very difficult to make any conversations. But after going back and forth, I started to develop a relationship with the guard, and one by one they were asking questions. They wanted to know what it's like to live outside of North Korea, and then they were watching me that I'm Christians, and they wanted to know, hey, why? How come you look happier than us? We are the guard, you are this prisoner. What's up with you, and who is Jesus? And they were asking this kind of question: Why are you able to endure the hardship? And then day by day, I was out there doing my work and smiling, and then they starting to wanted to know what's the secret, how can you endure such difficulties? And then they were asking questions like that to me and to among themselves.
So, always be prepared to give an answer for the hope that you have. That's the part of the story I think that spoke to me the most, because I'm not downplaying the hardships or anything that you went through, because I know it was pretty bad. But at the same time, I remember you talking about that and talking about just exactly what you were just saying, how the guards saw something different in you as you were enduring the difficulties. And that just, I mean, I can't even begin to imagine. I've got friends who have gone through some difficulties, and friends from, parts of Asia and the Middle East, and things I've never even gone through. And then, you're telling a story, as an American, and just what you had to go through. And yet North Korean guards were somehow seeing something inside of you. And that's the part I found, I think, just God. It's like an awe of God in the moment. I'm going to pause here for just a moment for two reasons. Number one, I would encourage you, if you love what we're doing at this podcast and the information that we're getting to you, then I would challenge you to subscribe, like this video, and comment if you're on YouTube, and rate us if you're on other platforms, preferably a favorable rating, but ratings nonetheless. And number two, go to our website at livingenviado.com, click on our merch store, and go buy this mug. It's a great way to support this podcast if you believe in what we're doing. But it's also a great way and a great reminder, especially this specific mug and in the topic we're having today about Kenneth being in a North Korean prison, to pray for and support the persecuted. So buying this mug helps support and keeps this podcast going, but it also reminds you to pray for them and to find ways to support them. Because if we don't have reminders, it's kind of like the out of sight, out of mind thing. But when things are in front of us constantly, it reminds us of things. So pray for the persecuted. Blessed are the persecuted, Matthew chapter 5, verse 10 on the back. It's a great reminder, a great gift for yourself, and a great gift for those you love. So now let's get back to the conversation with Kenneth.
I had to, ask the Lord, when is this gonna be over? How long would this hardship will last? And then Lord response was always the same, even the difficulty, hardship that you're going through is actually beneficial for you. I didn't like his answer, but he said, "But I am with you." But and then and I am always there to watch over you. So to not fear, because there's something that will come out from this. So he just reminded me that, I may be the only Jesus that they will ever get to see. It's like be a little Jesus to them, rather than don't try to persuade them, don't try to speak about Jesus, but live out as a little Jesus to them. And that was the most difficult things I had to do. But at the same time, then I always have to ask the Lord, Lord, teach me your way, and help me to live out your heart today. And so that was a very difficult to exercise every day, but because there's not everybody's nice, then some people are mean and yelling and screaming and giving me some sort of detention here and there, but still, the Lord's always wanted to come, the same things always come back to Him, come back to the same thing, which is what would Jesus do? And I realized that, more time I'm spending with the Lord, realize that I wasn't there as a prisoner, but I was there as his ambassador and his shepherd to watch over his lost sheep, which there are, at least 40 of them in there. And then there are, few of them were going in and out of the prison, like with me. So I realized that after by being there for 1 year, that was my missions to carry out his great commissions to the people, even though I couldn't really preach to them, but I realized that they can maybe see something they couldn't see before. So I guess that's what happened, maybe in last very year or so during the time in North Korea.
And I appreciate your honesty on the part that, just asking when is this going to end, because I mean, I think that's a natural question, but your maturity in your walk with Christ really shines through when you are explaining what you're hearing from God. And I'm just curious, did you ever wonder if you'd get out, or was there always a confidence inside of you that this will end one day?
Well, I had a faith in a way, but because as far as I know, every American came out. They were detained, and but no one actually stayed as long as I stayed before. Only one or two of them ended up at the court and got sentenced, but none of them actually were sent to the labor camp before. So I was the first person who was sent to labor camp, but I was hoping, and my, faith was that, oh, well, I'm just there as a bargaining chip for have a negotiation between North Korea and the U.S. governments. So I knew I was gonna get out, but I didn't know when. So Lord continued to remind me that, my grace is sufficient for you, Kenneth. And so hang in there, and then there's something to be accomplished. So I had to remind myself who I was and why I was there for. And if it's God's will for me to be there, I must accept that. And I'm hoping that someday, maybe I will have a reason to talk about this after I return home. I guess that's what I've been doing in the last, 12 years since I came back.
So you got released in 2014, almost just a few days over 2 years.
That's correct. There's it's part of the God story, but November 3rd was 2014 was exactly 2 years mark anniversary. But November 1st, one of the prosecutor came to see me and say, "Hey, it's been 2 years and you have 13 more years to go. Nobody's coming for you. You've been forgotten, and you're gonna be here for your 60th birthday." And that's what it was saying. But he's been doing this for every Saturday for over a year period of time. And so I was really disappointed, but at the same time that I realized that people around the world are remembering me and they're praying for me. And also about I received about 450 letters that was sent from many people that I have no idea who they are, but they heard about my story ordeal and that they started to write letters. I was able to receive letters and they were saying they cannot, you are not forgotten. We are praying for you. And so on November 3rd, early morning, I woke up. The Lord spoke to me clearly and said, Kenneth, open your Bible to Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 20. So I opened it without knowing what the verse was. And the NIV version that I had, it said that I will bring you home. So that was Monday, but on Friday, U.S. envoy arrived, and Saturday, I was able to go home. So almost like the Lord spoke to me at in the same time that the U.S. government plane with James Clapper is the national director of the intelligence that came along with about 20 other officials to get me out of North Korea. So that's what really happened during that time. I realized that you know, I didn't know when I was going home, but the Lord said, "Yeah, you're going home." And then 5 days later, I was coming home at the time.
So I'm curious on your flight home, like what was going through your head? I mean, I can't even imagine going through what you went through, and then you're on a plane, you're outside of North Korean airspace. I'm sure there's got to be a flood of emotions coming over
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, once somebody announced that we're outside of the North Korean airspace and everybody's clapping and congratulations, and I realized that actually I was actually going home, but I just being left out for over 2 years. I still have to, I mean, I couldn't believe what was happening. Once the actual plane landed in Seattle at the U.S. Air Force Base, and then I saw my mom and my sister and families are coming to get me, and that's the when I realized that I finally was released, and this is not a dream anymore. This is actual realities, and I was very relieved then. But during it took about 24-hour flight because we had to go through Guam and Hawaii and refuel, twice. By the time we get to Seattle, it took about 24 hours to get there, but I couldn't sleep at all, not even 5 minutes. But I was so excited, the fact that I was actually going home and see my families.
Given your experience in the prison, when most people leave a situation like that, I would imagine that they don't want to be near it. They don't want to be involved in anything associated with either the place or the country. And yet for you, that hasn't been true. I mean, you've basically have stayed connected with North Korea, maybe not inside North Korea, but you've stayed connected with it. You've stayed connected with the people. So since your release, like the last 12 years, what has been happening since then that keeps you moving forward to continue serving North Korean people?
So when I was, coming home, the Lord reminded me that people around the world were praying for me, they're remembering me, and that God has not, and He said that I have not forgotten you, and I haven't forgotten 25 million people in North Korea either. So go home and tell the people what I've done for you, and tell them that as they pray for you, now it's time for them to pray for people in North Korea. So that someday that God will release them as He was releasing me at the time. So that was my mission. I realized that I have no idea why I was there for 2 years, but I came back. I realized that I became international news. Many people pray over me. Millions of people remember me. So ever since then, that I wrote a book called Not Forgotten, because as a title in mentioned it, that I wasn't forgotten, and then God hasn't forgotten the people of North Korea either. Therefore, we must not forget the people of North Korea. So that's been my journey for the last 12 years. I mean, traveling around the world and sharing my testimony at the same time. and asking everybody to continue to remember people in North Korea as well. So I started something called Nehemiah Prayer Petition Campaign for North Korea. The website is pray number four nk.org. If you go in there, you can actually sign a petition to God and say, I will remember, I will pray, and I will stand with people in North Korea. And then you can sign the petition to God and say, I will pray for people in North Korea and reunification of North and South Korea. Ever since then, about people from over 6,000 people from 76 countries have signed this petition. People from Africa, even South Pole. I mean, it's places of 76 different countries. And now they're weekly, they're getting prayer letters and they're praying together for the people in North Korea. So that's one of the things that God really, prompted me to do ever since I came back. So I moved to not North Korea, but South Korea this time, because I realized that there are over about 35,000 North Korean refugees are living in South Korea. And at that time, about 1,000 to about 1,500 refugees coming in from North Korea to South Korea. And then so I realized that maybe I cannot go to North Korea, but I can help the people coming in. So I've been working with North Korean refugees to resettle, help them with their educations, teach them English, and help them with the scholarships and many. And then later on, they've been asking and said, can you help me get my children out of North Korea, my mom and my sister out of North Korea? So I've been helping to finance a rescue operation. So we were able to rescue about 108 people right before until the COVID. And after that, then we weren't able to do any rescue operation because of COVID after that. But our Lord shifted our attention to refugees are now living in China. There are about 100,000 or more refugees are hiding in different places in China. They were starving. They have to leave the country, and they couldn't get back. Now they're most of them are married to Chinese men in rural villages. So we've been helping North Korean women that have been living in North Korea, in China, and we've been doing an online counseling with them. One-on-one, we start building relationship, and then later on, then many the women's we studied with our study groups to online church or place of refugees, refuge, and also we've been helping their children for their education and so on. So I've been really busy for the last 6 or 7 years doing that. But last 2 years though, that we changed our organization name to New Korea Foundation International. I realized that we want to see people in North Korea to be free. They'll be able to hear the gospel. They'll be able to enjoy the freedom just like everybody else. So we've been praying for reunification, but he said, what can we do more than just prayer? And so we studied this, the New Korea reunification campaign, petitions, and now we are getting into this mode to start a Christian radio program to people in North Korea, and that will air it starting from March. So now that's kind of gift. We're shifting into helping refugees to now we are focusing more for people in North Korea, and we want to see they will be the one that will be free next. So that's the what I've been doing for the last 12 years in South Korea, going back and forth to US and asking people to join in this effort for the campaign and prayer campaign, rescue campaign. But now we want to do this radio campaign to bring gospel to people in North Korea.
I mean, that's that you say that's all we've been doing for 6 years, but that's a lot. I've got a friend. I'm not going to name him just for his own security because he goes into some pretty precarious places, like you have in the past. But I know he has in the last year been going to Seoul a couple of times, working with teams, doing work with North Koreans. And I don't know all that he's doing, but I know he always is sending me pictures of materials he's taking over there to Korea, how he's how they're doing things, what they're talking about, and just keep me updated. Because I've never been able to get involved yet, mostly because I'm just tied up other places. But it's always been a ministry that has fascinated me, because I was involved in China. I know China's a little different than Korea, but it's just in close proximity. I was always fascinated by the area: Japan, both Koreas, China, and of course when I went up to northeast China to Dandong and Dalian and a few other places like that, I've just always been tracking what's going on. And I recently heard a report. I don't know. I don't have any way of verifying the authenticity of it, but I heard a report that somehow, like in the last 10 years, millions of people in North Korea have gained access to a Bible. I don't know if you've heard that or not, or if that's true.
I don't know about millions though, but there's different way. There are a few organizations being focusing on bringing Bible to North Korea. Smuggling Bible to North Korea is one of the projects. They claim that maybe hundreds, thousands of Bibles went into North Korea. And so I know there are hidden churches in North Korea. It's not like they were able to gather, weekly basis and things like
Mhm.
that, but there were Christians still, hanging in there. But during this 1990s, a great famine took place. About 3 million people starved to death. Hundreds thousands actually left North Korea to China, and then they heard the gospel for first time. And then many of them were brought back to North Korea, or they volunteered to go back to North Korea to bring gospel to North Korea. So once doors open, we probably find there are more Christian than we ever expected, because they're through Bible, and then also with the radio signal going in, and broadcasting the gospel to North Korean people. And also there's a SD card and micro SD card and these kind of forms that we've been sending, Jesus films to audio Bibles and many different forms material into North Korea. We're able to actually, last a few years, with the plastic container, we are able to put Bible and a SD card in there, and also fill with rice. So that way, then we put it out in the ocean. Then when the current is strong, then current will take this, uh, you know, bottles to North Korea shore. So it take about 6 hours to get to North Korea side. We've been doing it like every 2 weeks or so. We send out about 2,400 Bibles to North Korea, but there are other ministries, and they've been sending many materials to North Korea through that way or the balloon. But now South Korean government is prohibiting all this, the sea route projects to balloon projects, and all suspended. And also, and then there's North Korean, the radio program the run by the governments, okay, North Korean, South Korean governments run by, the initiative, all got suspended as well. And then last about year or so, even Voice of America and RFA, Radio Free Asia, is based in US, they got suspended as well. So almost like right now, North Korean people are living digitally, and also there's no way they can get Bible smuggling into North Korea anymore. There's no broadcasting is happening. So this is the reason why that we wanted to not relying on the government funding or government's resources. We're trying to see how we as Christians can come together, and then bring gospel to North Korea through different form. And radio is really one thing, internet access, having internet broadcasting for the people living outside North Korea, but there are North Korean people in different countries, and then SD card distribution and things like that. So we are hoping that many more people in North Korea will be able to have access to Bible.
Praise God that you guys are doing that. You were saying something earlier. A lot of, especially here in the United States, we like to elevate, celebrity pastors, things like that. But to be honest, for me, I've always been more, I guess, fascinated and more eager to meet people like what you were describing, that you actually know people who are voluntarily returning to North Korea to preach the gospel. I mean, they understand the situation, they understand what's going on. They're actually volunteering to go back. I love people like that. I wish I could meet them. I mean, I wish I could meet so many people like that around the world, because they're, to me, the true heroes of the faith, that they're willing to put everything on the line, for the gospel, regardless of what may happen to them. And I'm just
There,
curious, just personally speaking, I'm just kind of a curiosity type person, but I mean, have you ever had any issues with maybe the North Korean government trying to stop what you're doing in the last 6, 7 years?
I've been doing this for about the last 10 years. So in the beginning, they didn't really like the fact that I was writing books and then also I was advocating for other prisoners that were inside North Korea prisons. There are Canadian pastors, American, so they didn't like the fact that I was doing that, and they didn't like the fact that I wrote a book about my ordeal. So they actually, made their own YouTube video about me and then how they were gonna come and get me, things like that, if I continue and so. But God's been faithful so far, last 10 years, and I've been doing what I was doing, and so far I didn't really have much threat from North Korean governments. But once we start this radio programming, I think that could be different stories, and because we'll be directly reaching the people in North Korea. So we'll see. But the Lord is always faithful. If the Lord's heart is in there, then I do believe that, God's protection is upon me. He was protecting me in North Korea prison, so I'm not too worried about what will happen, in next, next few months once we launch the live radio program to North Korea.
Well, God has clearly walked you through a lot, so I agree with you. I'm sure you're going to be fine as you walk into this new endeavor. And so, just to kind of bring this to a close, I'm curious, like, what can the global church do? Because I know for some people they may be thinking about North Korea and they think that's too far away. That's, I don't want to go through what Kenneth went through. I don't, it seems a little intimidating, but there's still ways for the church to be involved outside of going to North Korea. So how can the global church be involved with what you're doing, with just reaching North Koreans, with being part of what anyone's doing to engage North Koreans?
Sure. I think, just ask the Lord to fill you and your churches with heart for people in North Korea. Because without compassion from the Lord, they're so far away and they're not here in front of you. It's really hard to do any type of work that you can think. But if you have a heart for people in North Korea, when you have compassion, there are plenty of materials available for you to find what's going on in North Korea in internet and a lot of books that are written by defectors and refugees so I think that having a heart for people in North Korea is one thing, and the two is you can pray for them. As a global church, remember and pray for their ordeal, knowing that their condition can change. What happened in when you look around the world right now, we are living in a very different era. What happened in Venezuela, what's happening in Ukraine, now what's about to happen in Iran. We don't know what's going to happen, but we do believe that North Korea time is ticking as well. So we don't want to have any full-blown war will take place in South and North Korea or even in this Taiwan issues and so on. But we are living in this in very different time. So I feel like time is running out. So we need to pray, and then also we need to also be a voice for people who do not have voice, such as North Korean people. So just like people, that's what many people did for me, and they wrote letters to their congressmen and senators and governors and State Department to White House and say, please bring Kenneth Bae home. 170,000 people wrote petition to President Obama and say, please bring Kenneth Bae home. That really helped a lot. I do believe that as we are launching this new Korea the petition campaign for reunifications. And so this is something that is available online that people can actually go there to say North Korean people matter to God and they should matter, they are matter to us as well. Our church are standing with them and praying for them. And so you can sign the prayer petition, which is pray number 4nk.org, or you can go to prayer now only prayer campaign reunification petition campaign. And also third thing is you can also write letters to their congresses, UN, and say, please, relieve, do something about rescuing and liberating people in North Korea. I do believe it's very possible. One of the things I'm asking people around the world to pray is, I know we are living in this different era, like Elon Musk Starlink era nowadays, and I do believe that if Starlink is available to direct to cell technology is available already in US, and that's available in North Korea, then I do believe that within a week or two, North Korea people will be free. And we wanted to make sure that people have access to information and truth, and therefore trying to find a way to bring internet to people in North Korea, and then the Starlink is one of the best way to do it. Even if it's not internet, even one side conversation, the messagings, we can bring gospel messages to people in North Korea as well. So please remember and to pray for people that they will have access to freedom and access to gospel. And lastly, please remember our new project is called New Korea Hope Broadcasting. NKHB is our new, we'll be broadcasting 6 times a week, two different frequencies, and then we're gonna try to add more time, and then hopefully by next year we'll have full-blown radio programming to North Korea. Pre 2 or 3 hours a day. That will be our goal to make sure that they all have access to gospel. So yeah, I think that there's a different way that you can do that on your own, but I do believe that there's one other way that you guys can partner, and also at the same time that remembering people in North Korea and praying for them itself will be a big help at this point.
Well, I hope you can see why I invited Kenneth to be on this podcast. And just to remind you, so I'm going to put links in the description of this video to his book. I encourage you to go buy it and read it. It goes in a lot more detail about his story inside North Korea, inside the prison. I also put links to the websites he mentioned, the petition he mentioned, the prayer petition. All that stuff is going to be in the description. You may not be able to go to North Korea. You may not be able to serve North Koreans directly in the same way that Kenneth is, but you can do something. You can always pray. If you watched the last episode we did about foster care and the foster care crisis, my guest on that episode was talking about Christians can always do something. Now, he was relating it to foster care, but you can relate that statement to anything, especially North Koreans. So there is something you can do: prayer, petition, what Kenneth said, call your congressman, just everything as it relates to seeing the North Koreans free, but also more importantly for them to hear the gospel. And while you're doing that, I just want to encourage you, hit that subscribe button, comment, especially if you're on YouTube, and rate us if you're on the other platforms. Hopefully favorably, that would be preferably, but favorable rating on the other platforms help us get in front of more people and be intentional. Give it to 5 people. Share this episode with 5 people. This is an important topic. It may be out of sight, out of mind for most of us, but it's still an important subject. And someone has to speak up for the North Koreans in the same way that Kenneth is doing. We can all do something again. So anyways, thank you for listening or watching. And until next time, get out there, live boldly, live courageously, just like these North Koreans are doing, and live Enviado.